Greetings from World University and School on Monday, July 27th, 2026 at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And as we wait to see if people will join this open WUAS news and question and answer World University and School weekly business meeting, I'd like to share a little news and related with you. So, following up on an initial email from abstracttechnology.de on July 1st, 2026, and from Jaimin Pavashia there, was glad to learn that abstract-technology.de had created a new university, the German University of Digital Science, by building out in the Open edX Europe platform. And that apparently this German University of Digital Science had also become accredited in Germany. So, following up in a number of emails back and forth with Jaimin Pavashia at abstract-technology.de, have been curious how World University and School might develop in the Open edX Europe platform with abstract-technology.de adding MIT OpenCourseWare in potentially all 7 languages to the Open edX Europe platform with World University and School, and creating a Germany World University and School, potentially in German and in English, for free online degrees, bachelor, PhD, even law, medicine, IB high school, AAAS, 2-year undergraduate degree, and master's degrees. The German University of Digital Science apparently offers master's degrees, possibly also bachelor's degrees. So my email to them on July 20th, as well, not only to Jaimin Pavashia, but also to the Bundeskanzlerin .ad Angela Merkel and Roland Vogel, the Stanford Law School Codex Director, Sid Mazumdar in Health and Human Services in the US federal government, Peter Norvig, Stanford Distinguished Education Fellow, and the Google AI Director, all, Gottes Willen, wie sie in Bayern sagen, wo ich in 1982 studiert habe. So for God's sake, thanks so much for your email reply to my abstract-technology.de contact form message, especially. I'll bring your email to World University and School's weekly business meeting, loosely conducted in the manner of unprogrammed friends, NTFs, non-theist friends, Quakers, monthly business meeting, for further consideration. Having just received a US federal simplergrants.gov webinar recording from June 30th, and in World University and School seeking to deploy with the full US federal toolkit, it's possible WUAS, after some 20 years of friendly, Quaker-inspired or friendly-led, pretty much daily growth, will have access to funding sources. If World University and School were able to remunerate abstract abstract-technology.de, and in developing legal contracts for this, and for your language, quote, platform builds, migrations, hosting, custom development, AI integration, and related services, which are delivered on a paid contractual basis to funded institutions and organizations. How might we potentially proceed? As you may have read, and regarding your sentence, we are not in a position to take on unfunded platform builds, translation work, e.g. MIT OCW into German, or free multi-country deployments. World University and School is seeking to develop in all 200 countries and in their main languages and in the 32 Atlantic Partnership countries, per a meeting between Bundeskanzlerin Angela Merkel and former Prime Minister of England, Theresa May. And see agenda item 1 here in the blog post beginning Mount Ganga, Minya Konica, China, in both blogs, World University and School.blogspot.com and scott-mccloud.blogspot.com from July of 2026. And potentially by adding MIT OCW in 7 languages to an open edX Europe-like platform to make free to students WUAS degrees available in all 200 countries, WUAS universities, building out WUAS translation of MIT OCW further into many languages and on an open edX Europe-like platform is something WUAS is interested in exploring and brainstorming. I'm wondering if abstract-technology.de could connect WUAS with German computer scientists to explore developing the AI and ML to translate MIT OCW's greater than 2,500 courses into German, and potentially also into the Bangla language of Bangladesh and West Bengal, India, early on. And further, if WUAS could hire through abstract-technology.de as a major growth story for you, especially such German AI and ML and NLP computer scientists and LLM, large language model, to create even Germany World University and School in German and English, and for German students around the world and in Germany interested in free to students WUAS degrees, like most of German universities are free, I've read, but newly deploying or studying MIT OCW in German as a whole new set of courses in Germany. How best might we do this? As you may know also, World University and School is in a hashtag Grow with Google WUAS program, hashtags on Twitter, X, and LinkedIn. And then building on your success with the German University of Digital Science and their accreditation networks, contacts, and people, how might WUAS do this? And potentially through abstract-technology.de as a further growth story for you. Once World University and School is accredited and building on CC4 licensed MIT OpenCourseware, which says anyone can, 1, share it freely, 2, adapt it, e.g. with AI and ML, e.g. further with Open edX Europe, but 3, non-commercially. So World University and School will be free to students. WUAS is seeking remuneration for all 200 countries, from all 200 countries, ministries of education, along the lines in the rich countries of what it costs to attend MIT, Harvard, Stanford, around $65,000 per year per student, roughly in euros too. All of this could prove to be a further remarkable growth opportunity for abstract-technology.de. How best to proceed with these questions further, and as these queries season regarding WUAS Weekly Business Meeting today, Monday, July 27th, 2026, and next Monday, August 3rd, 2026. Would you like to join WUAS Weekly Business Meeting to talk further about all of this next Monday, July 27th, 2026? Or next Monday, August 3rd, 2026 at 10 a.m. Pacific time or another time and day? Best regards, Scott Gordon MacLeod. And the blog posts for weekly business meeting beginning Adirondack High Peak Wilderness, New York, in World University and School.blogspot.com and scott-mccloud.blogspot.com in July of 2026 in my daily blog too. P.S. Bundeskanzlerin.ad Angela Merkel. How might World University and School come into communication with your quantum physics PhD colleagues, and potentially to build out a realistic virtual Earth for quantum and a realistic virtual Earth for aging reversal too, regarding a hashtag realistic virtual Earth for genetics, and regarding the following 2-minute short video on YouTube from the Google quantum computer at the University of California, Santa Barbara, which has a focus on quantum echoes, including running simulations forward and in reverse, and reversing the arrow of time, hashtag reversing the arrow of time. A set of Twitter posts about this. Super, hashtag quantum echoes, including running simulations forward and in reverse, hashtag reversing the arrow of time, and see the 2-minute video. How does hashtag quantum computing help determine complex, hashtag G molecular structures, Google molecular structures, how to interoperate with hashtag realistic virtual Earth for aging reversal, hashtag RVE for drugs, hashtag WUAS, UNIVS. And read more about this in the blog post beginning Monterey clover, Trifolium trichocalyx. So could Angela Merkel's PhD colleagues in quantum physics, possibly in communication with her and abstract-technology.de, help build out a realistic virtual Earth for quantum? By realistic virtual Earth, think Google Street View with Time Slider, with little Pegman in Google Street View becoming our avatar agent electronic health records. And at the G cell view level, particularly the G quantum view, qubit view level, G molecular view level, G atom view level, and related. So Jaimin Pavishia from Berlin at abstract-technology.de, originally from India, from I think the west of India, northwest of India, Rajkot or similar, around there. Dear Scott, thank you for the detailed follow-ups and for sharing the wider context of World University and School's mission, along with the various blog posts and communications you've included us in over the past weeks. As shared in our original outreach on July 1st, 2026, Abstract Technology GmbH is which is like a limited liability corporation. They're investors, they have shares, they buy shares, but they're not, I think, publicly traded. Is a commercial, verified, open edX service partner. Our engagements, platform builds, migrations, hosting, custom development, AI integration, and related services are delivered on a paid contractual basis to funded institutions and organizations. Based on what you've described, particularly your note that World University and School is currently not financially operational, I want to be transparent with you. This is unfortunately not a fit for the services we offer at this stage. Specifically, we are not in a position to take on unfunded platform builds, translation work, e.g. MIT OCW into German, or free multi-country developments. Accreditation processes in Germany or elsewhere sit entirely with national accreditation bodies and the applying institution, or perhaps state bodies also in Germany, like where maybe the German University of Digital Science was accredited. And so this is not a service Abstract-Technology provides. And we were not involved in accrediting the German University of Digital Science. Our role there was limited to both building and supporting the technical platform which they use for their delivery program delivery. Given the above, I don't see a realistic path for us to engage commercially on the WUAS initiatives you've outlined. I'd also like kindly ask to be removed from the recurring weekly business meeting lists, emailings, and related mailing threads, as these fall outside the scope of our commercial conversations. I genuinely wish you the best with World University and School's mission, and thank you again for your interest in abstract technology. Best regards, Jaimin Pavashia. So in further contacting also Bundeskanzler Angela Merkel, who was the Chancellor of Germany for about 15 or 16 years, starting in 2005 through around 2020. I think there's a possible opportunity for World University and School to connect with the US federal government, to deploy with the full US federal toolkit, thanks perhaps to her credibility and her networks and contacts internationally as well, possibly also with Britain, and possibly for collaborating with Oxford and possibly Cambridge too. So the beginning of the thread of Jaimin Pavashia's email to us began on July 1st. Your academy, your data, your courses, custom open edX, LMS, learning management system by Abstract Technology, now smarter with AI. Dear Sir, Madam, behind every learning platform is someone who cared enough to build something, courses, curricula, a real community of learners. We work with organizations who've done exactly that, and we want a platform that finally matches your learning, your data, your academy, and creating your platform using your exciting courses, course content, and the ambition behind it. My name is Jaimin Pavashia, and I work with Abstract Technology GmbH, a Europe-based verified open edX service partner with over a decade of experience and 150 deployments across universities, academies, enterprises, NGOs, and public institutions. We have been speaking recently with several organizations running open edX through MOOCit, and the same pattern keeps surfacing. Platforms held back on outdated release lines with functionality that has simply not kept pace with what institutions actually need today. The good news is straightforward. You do not need to change platforms. You need to change what sits around the platform. Open edX has evolved dramatically, with every release bringing meaningful advances in learner experience, authoring, analytics, and AI. The current release, Ulmo, I think, or no, and the forthcoming Vera Wood are structural improvements that genuinely change what your platform can do. As an active contributor to the Open edX core, our team works at the sources, meaning our clients always run content, always run current supported releases, and benefit directly from our involvement in shaping the platform's direction. Add a native Open edX mobile app and dedicated GDPR compliant EU hosting, and the distance between where your platform sits today and where it could be becomes very clear. We build complete custom learning environments, clean migration from older release lines with no loss of content or learner data, AI-powered course creation, and learner assistance, payload CMS, content management system, integration, and a setup tailored to your institution's goals, not a template, not a generic deployment. As a reference point, we built the entire online infrastructure for the German University of Digital Science. Within 1 year, they were ranked #1 in international orientation in SZ Süddeutsche Zeitung, the South German university based in Bavaria, in Munich, ranking 2026, case study attached. We are happy to offer a live demo, 30 to 45 minutes, and a complimentary 1-month trial of a fully configured Open edX sandbox, no commitment required, brochure attached for further context. If any of this resonates, I would genuinely welcome a short conversation about where your platform could go next. Simply share a few slots that work on your side, and we can take it from there. Feel free to explore our services in the meantime at abstract-technology.de. Best regards, Jaimin Pavashia in Berlin. Further regarding potential accreditation in Germany at Germany World University and School in German and with a German accreditation agency, question mark, question mark, question mark. And interestingly, regarding data, your data in Jaimin Pavashia's title, World University and School has been in Wikidata since the early to mid 2010s. Wikidata is Wikipedia's backend structured knowledge database, which is based also in Berlin, and where World University and School is appreciative that its Wikidata is in something like 348 languages. And World University and School, and seeking to build out in all 200 countries, may be focusing on perhaps 100 of those languages initially in those 200 countries, and possibly interoperating with Wikidata for our World University and School data in some of these regards. And we're also seeking, World University and School is also seeking to build out into all 7,159 known living languages for wiki schools, people-to-people wiki teaching and wiki learning, and Wikidata in 342 languages is the structured knowledge database that could Inform AI and Machine Learning World University in Schools is a good start for the remaining 6,800 languages that World University in Schools seeks to build out in, with Google having a 1,000-language project too, I think, for example, and World University in School being in a Grow with Google WUS program. So I created a set of Twitter X posts about this. Actually, so that's World University in School's current communication with abstract-technology.de, and hoping we can further engage perhaps Bundeskanzlerin.ad Angela Merkel, having just emailed her office last night with the invitation to today's July 27th weekly business meeting and next Monday's August 3rd weekly business meeting. So perhaps Bundeskanzlerin Angela Merkel could communicate further with abstract-technology.de, and as World University in Schools seeks to deploy with the full US federal toolkit, and perhaps Jaimin Pavashia could help develop a plan for a World University in School grant from simplergrants.gov in some of these regards too. Stay tuned. So next item. I've touched on this before, but are there any organizations in the US or companies that are both a 501c3 tax-exempt legal entity, like at World Univ and SCH, and concurrently a for-profit general stock company legal entity in the state of California, like the WUAS Corporation at WUAS Press, part of #World Univ and SCH. And Gemini AI says there are not, and that potentially our two wings would interrelate along intellectual property lines and financially in specific ways. Thanks, Gemini, for this information. What implications might this have for us building out potentially a Germany World University in School in the German language, as we seek to build out also the WUAS Corporation, the academic press at WUAS, planned in 7,159 living languages, possibly first in German or early on in the German language, and also the WUAS educational services stores for books, computers, robotics, hospital technologies, and think Google, think Walmart in 19 out of 200 countries, where World University in School seeks to be in all 200 countries. Could World University in School, in working with abstract-technology.de, also begin a first World University in School WUAS educational services store, physical, digital, in Germany, in Berlin even, because I think Walmart is not in Germany, and we're seeking also to proceed with a store within a store model within Walmart in those 19 countries, but are seeking to build our own stores as well, physical, digital, retail stores. More about this in the blog post beginning Indo-Chinese Green Magpie in my blog from June of 2026, scott-mccloud.blogspot.com. There are incredible potential synergies between the two WUAS wings planned in all 200 countries and for speakers of all 7,159 living languages. So item BB, and again, regarding The WUS Corporation for-profit wing in the state of California, our second wing, and its beginning webpage is worlduniversityandschool.org/academicpress.html. How will WUAS be able to develop with Stanford MindPi cryptocurrency? You can get your own Pi cryptocurrency free money daily here at mindpi.com/SGKMAC. It takes less than 5 seconds to mine every 24 hours, and you get a few Pi coins every day. And the Pi on your smartphone app and on their servers, I think, continues to rise toward infinity in a fascinating development of creating a cryptocurrency based on Pi 3.14159 out to infinity. And as a for-profit general stock company in the state of California, and even possibly with time, list the WUS Corporation on a stock exchange, such as the NASDAQ or the Silicon Valley Long-Term Stock Exchange, or even multi-list the WUS Corporation. And regarding the academic press at WUAS in 7,159 living languages with machine and human translation, and the WUAS Educational Services stores, both in all 200 countries. Item B1, and interoperate effectively. So how could we grow the WUS Corporation, possibly with Pi cryptocurrency, and interoperate effectively with our first World University and School wing, with its US federal and state of California tax-exempt World University and School legal entities as a 501c3. And its current beginning webpage is worlduniversityandschool.org. And see also the candid.org profile, formerly guidestar.org profile for World University and School. Item B2, and how might the hashtag Grow with Google WUAS program for World University and School, a WUAS, potentially help with coding these two WUAS wings, especially initially? Item B3, and how best to build these two WUAS wings out together? Item CC, World University and School's open WS Weekly Business Meeting, news and question and answer meet on Mondays. Next today, July 27th, 2026. Check your time converter, 10 a.m. Pacific time, and we'll post these to the YouTube channel for World University and School, beginning youtube.com/Scott McLeod World University. And the blog posts for today, WS Weekly Business Meeting, begin with, so the agenda and news begin with Adirondack High Peaks Wilderness, New York, and they were posted last Monday, July 20th, 2026. So World University and School is growing daily and weekly business meeting by weekly business meeting. See these blog labels for business meeting in both blogs. And before that, with WUS monthly business meeting by monthly business meeting, loosely conducted in the manner of unprogrammed friends, NTS Quakers, and blog post by blog post too. And waiting, I think, for accreditation opportunities to further develop, and in WUS seeking to deploy with the full US federal toolkit as well. And WUS is waiting for money from grants.gov or simplergrants.gov, and see, or some other grant somehow, and how to grow a flourishing, engaged, and engaging research community online. MIT and Harvard's How to Grow Almost Anything Synthetic Biology course online as a model, which is taught by George Church and many other MIT and Harvard faculty for registered Harvard and MIT students, also for committed listeners and global listeners, of which I was one in the spring of 2025. CHTGAA blog label in both blogs, worlduniversityandschool.blogspot.com and scott-mcleod.blogspot.com. And how best to grow an engaged and engaging WUS Wiki teaching and Wiki learning community with Wiki teachers and Wiki learners learning and teaching in any of these subjects, and in all 7,159 living languages, to bring people in and create communities. Wiki subjects page in English so far is at wiki.worlduniversityandschool.org/wiki/subjects with a capital S. Or beginning new Wiki schools, first in English, but then in all 200 countries' main languages, and then for speakers of all 7,159 living languages to do this in all these languages. And again, with Wiki subjects, one can create additionally. For example, about what one loves to do, teach, or learn about. And both online with a 2D, 3D computer screen on laptops or desktops, and in our homes in developing realistic virtual Earth in digital glasses and similar hardware, and especially in a WUAS multimedia rooms in our homes, and which we create, perhaps by putting smart screen panels on 5 sides of a room, for n-dimensionality, for example, a WUAS hospital multimedia room, and at the WUAS Academic Medical Center, for example, out of 670 Ridgecrest Road, Canyon, California, 94516, potentially too. And see the video online titled Google Earth in an Immersive Meeting Room from Igloo Vision out of Shropshire, England, for the idea further. And for n-dimensional developments, etc., and developing a realistic virtual Earth in a myriad of other ways. All the best abolitionally, a best Steam Creative Commons licensed open courseware wiki at World Univ and SCH, hashtag WUAS abolition movement continues to grow to protect people. And see the blog post beginning Eagle, Akia, World University in both blogs from October of 2025. And in WUAS seeking to code for all 7.9 billion people on the planet to facilitate wiki free universal education and free degrees for matriculating students from all 200 countries, and potentially to end poverty worldwide. Yogically, 8 limbs of yoga, and see the tree of 8 limbs of yoga picture here in this Q_yoga Macflower on Twitter Twitter post, and friendly NTF NTQ Quaker, and regarding Quaker spices, simplicity, peace, integrity, community, equality, stewardship, and Unitarian Universalist Church regarding the 7 or 8 UU principles. Greetings, kind regards, Scott G.K. McLeod. So a recording of today's WUAS weekly business meeting will be posted to youtube.com/Scott McLeod World University /videos. Check it out. So agenda item 1 on the World University and School wing. 501c3 or similar nonprofit. See the candid profile. Its current website, beginning website is worlduniversityandschool.org. Agenda item 1. WUS on Open edX Europe with abstract-technology invitation, and in WUS developing Germany, World University and School in German and English, and accrediting with a German accreditation agency. See above. And with World University and School has been in communication with Bundeskanzlerin Angela Merkel and former Prime Minister of England, Theresa May, and regarding the Atlantic Partnership that they are both involved in, and where Angela Merkel spoke, I think, about a month or so ago. And about some of the above, the Atlantic Partnership includes countries on both sides of the Atlantic, everywhere from Brazil to Mexico to the United States to Canada to Great Britain to France to Portugal to Morocco to Nigeria to South Africa. It would be a great initial build for World University in School to potentially help all these countries with free World University in School, free to students World University in School education, and possibly with Stanford MindPi cryptocurrency as well, and possibly to end poverty and to facilitate free universal education too, highest quality, building on MIT OCW in 7 languages. Agenda item 2, India World University and School in the Kannada language. Recently, 2 Saturdays ago or so, met Pratyush and Shishir in Santa Cruz, California. They're both from Kannada language area in South India, and they both have recently gotten their PhDs in machine learning and large language models, and from the University of Washington for Pratyush and the University of California, Berkeley for Shishir. And they're employed in a tech company in the Bay Area. How might we develop, as we talked at Santa Cruz near the surfing museum there, how might World University in School develop regarding their CS PhDs in machine learning, a realistic virtual earth for genetics also, for aging reversal genetics, and regarding building this in even a WUS hospital multimedia room, and n-dimensionally. Dear Shishir and Pratyush, as a follow-up to some of what we talked about while watching the surfers near the Santa Cruz Surfing Museum, how best also to grow a WUS computer science team, and in developing a realistic virtual earth with machine learning and artificial intelligence, and for aging reversal and extreme longevity, especially, and potentially in the shop at 670 Ridgecrest Canyon 94516. So more about this in the blog post beginning Monterey clover, Trifolium trichocalyx. So item 2A, India World University and School in Canada further. Met Vijay and Harsha Raval walking down Russell Street in Berkeley on Friday, July 17th, 2026. Vijay has been at a CPA in the United States. Harsha has studied in London and England. She's originally from Africa, and their son studied at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I went to high school in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and maybe I think is in the same company that Pratyush and Harsha and Shishir are in. Interesting. Perhaps we can explore something further here, and see the blog post beginning Desert Bluebells, Phycelia campanularia in my blog, scott-mccloud.blogspot.com from July of 2026. Agenda item 3, with about 15 more minutes to go in this weekly business meeting. Further, more about quantum echoes and running simulations forward and in reverse, and reversing the arrow of time. How does quantum computing help determine complex gene molecular structures, and how could we apply this to a realistic virtual earth for aging reversal? Think Google Street View with Time Slider. With the Time Slider perhaps being the arrow of time, computer science-wise in this instance, and working with the Google quantum computer at the University of California, Santa Barbara, in a realistic virtual Earth, and see Peter Norvig's incredible article, Toolify AI WUAS, Revolutionizing Education with Machine Learning and AI, World University in School, updated March 2nd, 2024, where he talks about MIT OpenCourseWare and language diversity and a realistic virtual Earth for the first time, other than World University in School has been talking about, and even a realistic virtual Harbin Hot Springs and studying bliss in it. Curious how we might develop this realistic virtual Earth in a Grow with Google WUS program further with Google Street View, with multiple instantiations of this time slider process with the Google quantum computer out of Santa Barbara, for a kind of Google verified advantage or something like that, quantum advantage. So more about this in the blog post beginning scott-mccloud.blogspot.com. Erudition capitatem lompoc verbis santa in my blog from July of 2026. Agenda item 4. So this has to do with West Bengal, India, and an emerging civil code across India, all of India. This is hashtag West Bengal Uniform Civil Code is under debate. This is an article, YouTube video news report, maybe from the Indian Express. How can World University in Schools, 22 law schools in India's 22 scheduled languages, help with India's uniform civil code emerging from its constitution, moving toward civil law from religious law in modernity and the information age internetity? As nation states develop new forms of law, and India is developing new forms of law from their constitution, in part, how could World University and Schools, law schools help? More about this in the blog post beginning Greater Yellowthroat Gilla Gilla, or Gia Gia, in my blog from July of 2026. Agenda item 5. Next steps for Bangladesh World University and School in the Bangla language. Mahdi Hassan in Dhaka, who helped create the very first World University and School in the Bangla language in around September of 2024, about 2 years ago, is interested in further, I think, developing Bangladesh World University and School in the Bangla language, for example. Bangladeshi speakers, Bangla speakers around the world number some 273 million, both in Bangladesh with possibly 170 million population, and in West Bengal, India, and in many other places. How could World University and School, developing with abstract-technology.de on the Open edX Europe platform, and then accrediting this, then develop for or with Bangladesh World University and School in the Bangla language? And how could we develop this out of Dhaka, maybe further in communication with Mahdi Hassan there? More about this in the blog post beginning Desert Bluebells, Facilia campanularia in my blog from July of 2026. Agenda item 6, how to simulate or recreate black hole energy extraction using synthetic rotation in a realistic virtual Earth, a realistic virtual universe. and see Peter Norvig's incredible #TulifyAIWUAS article regarding a realistic virtual Earth and universe also. Could we develop in this modeling process in a realistic virtual universe a new approach to at least theoretically, black hole energy extraction using synthetic rotation? This comes in conversation with a news item based on Gemini, I think, that I received in some of these regards regarding a university on the East Coast that had done this in a different way, perhaps physically, modeling it. And how could we do this with a realistic virtual universe? Read more about this in the blog post beginning Greater Yellowthroat, Gila Gila, in my blog, scott-mccloud.blogspot.com. Agenda item 7, California, World University and School, and even regarding a virtual Harbin Hot Springs and a realistic virtual Earth, and in a WUS multimedia room, and potentially in communication with 5A Moraga, which would be a fascinating creative project, and in conversation with Jay there, and possibly regarding also finding students who from California who might matriculate at World University and School. And I recently received in my post office box in Canyon 94516 an Akalani's high school flyer with a survey on it. And it seems to me further, coming in conversation with this, that getting in touch with high schools in California for their graduates after we become accredited, would accreditation in Germany on Germany World University and School in German and English be sufficient accreditation for us to matriculate California high school students for online free degrees at World University and School? I plan to respond to this Akalani's High School survey in some of these regards, such that perhaps as we accredit, we can let their college counselors know at Akalani's High School about this emerging free to students World University and School online opportunity as we build out further on with MIT OpenCourseWare in English, and possibly by adding it to the Open edX platform and then accrediting. More about this in the blog post beginning Desert Bluebells, Facilia Campanularia. Agenda item 8. Yoga greetings from Restorative Yoga Explorations on Saturday, July 18th, and as we may live to 150 and well beyond. Exploring in this yoga class also the questions of these quantum echoes and how we might yogically explore running simulations forward and back, reversing the arrow of time, using quantum computing to help determine complex gene molecular structures, and how to interoperate this with a realistic virtual Earth for aging reversal, a realistic virtual Earth for yoga, an RVE, #RVE for drugs, and at World University and School. See the Twitter X post about this. And in some of these regards, item 8A, ask Gemini and Google search AI mode regarding yoga asana and a realistic virtual Earth for yoga. 2, informing our avatar agent electronic health records, digital twins emerging from Google Pegman in Google Street View with time slider at the qubit, cellular, molecular, etc. levels. How might quantum echoes, including running simulations forward and in reverse, #reversing the arrow of time, help with aging reversal and extreme longevity? And how does quantum computing help determine complex G molecular structures, and how to interoperate with a realistic virtual Earth for aging reversal and RVE for drugs in all 200 WUS universities, and with significant implications still far in the future for aging reversal and extreme longevity genetic drug therapies in a realistic virtual Earth for aging reversal, a realistic virtual Earth for extreme longevity. Could we live to 150, well beyond the upper known limit of 122, by determining complex molecular structures with the Google quantum computer, for example, at UCSB? This is something Google may well be working on actively at this time. Stay tuned. How to interoperate this with Google Street View, with TimeSlider and computer science, and where Google Pegman in Google Street View could become our avatar agent electronic health records. More about this in the blog post beginning Santa Lucia, Mesa, Mint, in my blog, scott-mccloud.blogspot.com from July of 2026. Further, agenda item 9, a great Verdi Messa da Requiem excerpt from the Berlin Philharmonic came through on my smartphone, a little short video. Could we play with this online from home and sing with this? It's a choral piece in a realistic virtual Earth, and see also both the symphony orchestra at World University and School wiki subject page and the opera wiki subject page at World University and School. In my blog, scott-mccloud.blogspot.com from July of 2026, beginning area dictum capitatum lompoc verbasante. Agenda item 10. Harbin book, my Naked Harbin ethnography book. When were, this is from the Twitter post in these regards. This is a historical question and in some ways, and an ethno-wiki virtual world graphy question, a question where we could all add to a realistic virtual Earth for history data that we pulled together from the web and from other sources, from photographs we took, from texts we might write. And this was having visited the National Park Service's Sutro Baths Park in Northwest San Francisco. When were the hashtag Sutro Baths in Northwest SF most active, and what were they like? And how could we see this in a hashtag RVE, realistic virtual Earth? The Sutro Baths were most active from their grand opening in 1896 through the early 1900s. Into a, how could we add all of the history we might know, and as individuals, to a realistic virtual Earth for history, a reinventing history, both theoretically and also methodologically, or complementing current historical approaches to theorizing history, for example, and to writing history. And with ethno-wiki virtual world graphy, history, wiki virtual world graphy, and regarding WUAS history. More about this in the blog post beginning area dictum capitatum lompoc verbisante from July of 2026 in my blog. Agenda item 11, Indian activist on hunger strike for 20 days, forcibly taken to hospital. Wangchuk was protesting against irregularities in national medical entrance exams in India. How can, at WUS MED-SCHS medical schools in India's 22 scheduled languages in the back of Toyota teaching hospital buses help? Apparently there are some unfairnesses that occur in applying and in taking the exams in for India medical schools. And World University and schools, medical schools in all 22 scheduled languages, and potentially for the poorest in India as well, could well help with this in brand new ways with information technology, AI, and ML too. Apparently, Wangchuck went off his hunger strike after 26 days, I've read, and whether change will be occurring in India in some of these regards regarding their medical exam system and practices and making them fairer, it seems, is to be seen. More about this in the blog post beginning Purple Ample Huveria Purpurea in my blog from July of 2026. Agenda item 12. Traveling to see family and international organized crime risks. This is a question that I'm asking in an ongoing way regarding, for example, my father having flown out to see me with my mother a long time ago when I first matriculated at the University of California, Santa Barbara in 2001, in around September of that year, and seemingly to have been pushed down some stairs or escalator in Los Angeles, in the main Los Angeles airport, LAX, and from, I think, possibly international organized crime. And has the US federal government taken back our airports from international, or secured our airports from international organized crime risks? And where is the right place to try hashtag international organized crime? On Twitter, also, this relates to some posts. The International Criminal Court, and regarding most of all of the 200 nation states, and in advisory roles, potentially, the International Criminal Court in an advisory role, for example, with Stanford Law School, e.g. Hank Greeley, Roland Vogel, and Barbara Van Shavik, and in the California especially, since the International Criminal Court apparently has relatively little jurisdiction in the US. So how could international organized crime be knocked back further and legally, potentially in California, for example, in new ways, and in the San Francisco Bay Area, the San Francisco East Bay, and even regarding in Canyon 94516. I was in asylum on the Eastern Seaboard for about 2.5 years due to some death threats in the San Francisco Bay Area, where I would say I fled for my life to the Eastern Seaboard around August 1st, 2022. I departed the Eastern Seaboard to asylum houses there on December 10th, 2024, and headed back to the Eastern Seaboard headed back to the West Coast, because in my analysis, the West Coast had become safer. But I've been traveling basically ever since in a vehicle. Since March 4th, 2025, I've been van camping in a 2025 Toyota Sienna minivan. And this is regarding my seeking to move further back into a newly safe, vacant, with property deed, 670 Ridgecrest Canyon 94516. There was, thanks to Ed Smythe, MD, and John Sargent, MD's precipitation of my moving into 670 Ridgecrest Canyon, California, beginning around March of 2022, in 2 long phone calls with Ed. And there was a recent gunshot to my vehicle's roof, and 5 Tesla-related, SpaceX-related, TwitterX-related death threats to me. the gunshot to the roof of my Sienna happened on March 18th, 2026, a Monday, and am continuing to seek to move in to a newly safe vacant with property deed 670 Ridgecrest Canyon 94516 with U.S. federal government and state of California legal processes working effectively in new ways. This gunshot to the roof of my Toyota Sienna from international organized crime, involved with these companies, even is SpaceX also involved with the U.S. Space Agency in international organized crime, tragically. Stay tuned. More about this in the blog post beginning Purple Amole Huveria Pupuria in my blog, scott-mccloud.blogspot.com from July of 2026. Agenda item 13. So there's a great philosophical introduction also to conscious large language models. A UC Berkeley talk by philosopher David Chalmers asks, when we talk to AI, what are we talking to? In an hour-and-a-half long video talk he gave at UC Berkeley at iHouse, International House. A big question here, how could World Univ and SCH create jobs for Berkeley graduates, for Berkeley philosophy graduates, and potentially coming into conversation with this talk, where the chair of the philosophy department introduces David Chalmers, who's a philosopher at New York University in New York City. And could World University and School come into communication further with the chair of the philosophy department, with David Chalmers, and create jobs for Berkeley graduates and also for NYU graduates, for example, for internships and for philosophers too, in a myriad of ways. And regarding large language models also, and whether they could become conscious. Stay tuned. More about this in upcoming blog posts. Agenda item 14. How to build out all of these remarkable J. Craig Venter innovations early on into a realistic virtual earth for #4genomics. Recently, George Church tweeted a post, a Nature.com magazine article about J. Craig Venter, an obituary, mentioning all Venter's innovations. He was one of two organizations that decoded the human genome in around the year 2003, the NIH being the other organization. So how best to build a set of Twitter posts in these regards? How best to build in all these remarkable #J. Craig Venter innovations mentioned in this obituary early on in a #realistic virtual earth for genetics, a #realistic virtual earth for history, a #realistic virtual earth for #4genomics, #longevity genetics, #4history, and in #Canyon 94516 shop in a #WUAS hospital multimedia room to scientifically prove #aging reversal. More about this later. The obituary of J. Craig Venter in Nature magazine link is posted, both the Twitter post and the Nature.com article, on George Church's Twitter feed on July 17th, 2026. George Church's Twitter handle is @GOChurch. Moving to the WUAS Corporation wing, the second of two WUAS wings, the for-profit General Stock Company, legal entity in the state of California, planning WUS educational services stores, both physical and digital, in all 200 countries and in all 7,100 languages, and the WUS academic press, planned in all 7,159 living languages with machine and human translation. Agenda item A, a realistic virtual earth for aging reversal and a realistic virtual earth for drugs. How could World University and School develop with the quantum computer of Google's at UCSB and regarding quantum echoes, drugs from this for aging reversal and extreme longevity, and both do the research and manufacture these drugs, potentially sell them in our WUS educational services stores and in all 200 countries. And regarding reversing the arrow of time, more about this in the blog post beginning Purple Amole Huveria Puparia. Agenda item B, Bangladesh World University and School with the WS Educational Services stores for books, computers, robotics, groceries, hospital technologies, and think of a Walmart product line for education in 19 out of 200 countries in Bangladesh as well. How best to develop the Bangladesh World University and School with the WUS Educational Services stores? I don't think Walmart is in Bangladesh. Could World University and Schools WUS Educational Services store develop early on in Bangladesh? And possibly if Walmart were exploring going into Bangladesh as well, with a store within a store model or independently. Stay tuned. Read more about this in the blog post beginning Desert Bluebells, Vasilia Campanularia, in my blog, scott-mccloud.blogspot.com from July of 2026. So that is the WS News and question and answer on Monday, July 27th, 2026. I'll post the recording of this to the main YouTube channel, youtube.com/Scott McCloud World University, videos, and to the two main Twitter X feeds, twitter.com/WORLD UNIV and twitter.com/WUAS Press, as well as to the two main blog posts for today, which begin Wuling Yuan Mountains for July 27th, 2026. So I'll post the video to this. We're using the Adirondacks blog post from last week, July 20th, beginning for agenda and news. I'll also post this to the main LinkedIn profiles. Looking forward to further conversation about some of this, such as what World University and School received in that email on July 1st, 2026 from Jaimin Pavashia in Berlin and from abstract-technology.de, potentially in communication with Bundeskanzlerin Angela Merkel, and about a myriad of other growing World University and School developments. Until next week, August 3rd, 2026 at 10 a.m. Pacific time. See you, come into communication with you online more later, and have a great week. Bye for now.